Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon session of the day one. Now we are going to have a session on statistical techniques for data analysis by Dr. Shaheen Farzana, madam. Before I hand over the session to the madam, I would like to give a brief introduction about Dr. Shaheen. Dr. Shaheen is currently an assistant professor in the School of Operations and Information Technology at the Institute of Public Enterprise, Hyderabad. Dr. Shaheen received her undergraduate degree in computer science from Kakatiya University and postgraduate degree in computers from Usmania University. She is awarded PhD in computer science and engineering for her thesis on HOF logistic software reliability two-steps approach from Acharya Nagarjuna University. She presented various academic and research-based papers at several national and international conferences. Dr. Shaheen is statistician by interest and technologist by qualification and has 2 decades of teaching experience. Her interests include data science, machine learning, and deep learning using RStudio and Python, statistics for management, software engineering, and artificial intelligence. Her research activities are currently threefold. While the first research activity is related to the study of problems using statistical process control techniques for monitoring software reliability. The second research theme is relating to data science and its applications, while the third research theme is related to socio-economic studies of religious minorities in India. It's our pleasure to have you here, ma'am. You can carry on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shweta. Thanks a lot for the detailed introduction that you have provided to the participants. I would also like to thank Dr. Ramesh, who has been instrumental in designing this entire program. And then I had done a program with Sir almost 5 years back. Right. Quickly, let me tell you what is that we intend to take it up in this 1.5-hour session that is scheduled. As the topic title goes, the statistical data analysis is what you are interested in, because you are aware of the fact that whenever we discuss about SPSS, it is a statistical tool. So how do you use this tool? What are the various types of analysis that you could carry out just given a data is what we are trying to understand in this current session. I have been given to understand by Dr. Ramesh that already the PPT has been forwarded to you. You may kindly go through the PPT once probably this session is done, or even if you are going through it now, please pay attention to the details that we would be discussing, because these may look very rudimentary, but these are extremely essential whenever you analyze the data. My personal experience has been that generally we misunderstand these are fundamental concepts, and we think that we are very much aware of these concepts. But when we start looking at analyzing or interpreting the research data, only then we realize that yeah, it is not what exactly is the intention of the tool or technique in statistics. So quickly, I have divided the entire discussion into 5 modules for this 1.5 hour session. Initially, we will try to understand what is meant by data, what are the different types of formats of data that are available, and which type of data do we generally deal with, and how do we analyze this data. Because ultimately, as a researcher, our concern is not only collecting data, but drawing some insights from that data. In order to draw those insights, we analyze the data. So initially, we will try to understand what are the different data formats. Then people try to understand what are the different ways in which you could measure the data. We do understand I cannot measure, I would want to have 1 kg of water. I am sure all of you will laugh to that. You would say, hello, it is not 1 kg of water. Rather, I would have appreciated if you have said 1 liter of water. So there is a measurement scale that is associated even with the data. So we will look at what are the different scales of measurement, which method is effective in which type of research problem. We will look at few caselets also. Besides that, we will try to understand what is statistics, what are the 4 activities, 4 pillars on which statistics is based, and how do these activities enable you to draw business insights is what we will also look at. Finally, we will also try to look at what are the various types of analytical techniques that are available broadly in 5 categories. So what are those 5 categories also we will be discussing in the due course of this session. Tomorrow, I intend to cover univariate, bivariate, and multivariate analysis, and how do you try to interpret the data. The problem is we do know that 2 plus 5 is equal to 7, but how do you represent, how do you interpret the data? That is where we generally fail. So what is the story that we need to write? You would say that Ram has received 2 rupees from company A, and he has received 5 rupees from company B. So the total income that Ram has for the month of August 2020 has been 7 rupees. This is exactly what the interpretation that I was referring to. Just merely getting the outcome would not be enough. How to analyze the data, how to interpret the data are equally important. So during these 2 days, we will be discussing how do you interpret the data, based on which I'm given to understand through the schedule very clearly defined that you will be looking at implementation of that in SPSS. Right. Quickly, let me share the screen and then probably continue with the permission of the with the permission of the organizers. Madam Shweta, can I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Thank you. Are you all able to view my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, perfect. Let me continue then. Right, today we will try to understand what, in order to analyze the data using SPSS, what are the initial steps or activities that you undertake whenever you take up any research study, either it be a business related or maybe academic research. So the first module that, as I have given you the details, initially we will try to look at the various digital data formats, and then subsequently we will look at the other topics as listed on your screen. Right. Your first question is, why is it important for us to analyze the data? 1. 2, why is it that statistics is that important a tool for us to understand? Because I generally hear this questions from my research scholars as well. They have a statement, Madam, I do understand that PhD theses or otherwise postdoctoral theses is all about culmination of various activities. It is not only domain knowledge that is essential, but also some statistical knowledge, business knowledge, etc. And I cannot be master of everything. So henceforth, can I take the help from others for statistical analysis and continue with my work, whatever I am aware of? Right, it is possible. But please remember, once you get into an academic activity or a business related activity, there probably in every situation it may not be possible to take the help from others. So it becomes essential for us to have at least a minimum understanding of what are the statistical tools and techniques that are needed. So that's exactly what he says. Basic knowledge of statistics, how it works, how can you draw conclusions, etc., will be extremely important in the coming days. This is not what I have said or what Mahatma Gandhi University says or what government of India says. It is a person who is into hardcore business who is stating this. So having understood that statistics is extremely essential for us to carry out our activity, let us look at what are the various types of digital data formats that are existing in any research work. When we talk about digital data, there are three different types of data that you may have collected or you are currently working with. The first set of data is unstructured in nature. The second set is semi-structured. The third set is structured. You may have a doubt, what are these signifying? What are they indicating? Now, let me quickly give you an study and then I'll get back to understand what is this percentage, whatever we have exhibited on the right side of the screen in a pie chart. Now, I would give you 1 minute in order to quickly go through this case study so that we understand what is meant by structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. I request you to kindly go through this small case study. I hope you are done with reading it. Right, perfect. Right. Now, basically, quickly, let me put forth the description to you. There is basically a small hospital which began its operation way back in 2000, in the year of 2000, with a very humble beginning they have made with 25 beds. Today, it has grown into a multi-speciality hospital, wherein 24/7 emergency care is provided to the customers who visit this hospital, or rather, I would say to the patients who visit this hospital. There are two queries that probably you and me have to deal with the data that this hospital, multi-specialty hospital, is going to share with us. The first question that you are being asked is, what is the type of data that is present in the system? You will have to collect that information from them, from the hospital authorities. Now, you also have to understand how this data is stored in this hospital before you take up any further action on the data set provided by this multi-specialty hospital. Now, please quickly look at the first part of it. The first type of data that is associated with this multi-specialty hospital is structured data. Quickly, let me tell you who are the people who are involved in it. There is one person by name Nandu, who is the nurse at this particular hospital. You have I have a request. Please kindly can all of you mute your microphones so that we do not disturb others, please. Right. Let me quickly continue. So you have one Nandu, who's the nurse at the hospital. You have a patient visiting the hospital. He's Mr. Prem. And you have a doctor who is going to take care of the patients visiting this particular department. And the name of the doctor is Dr. Dev. The general activity that is taken care of at this particular multi-speciality facility is that any patient who is visiting this particular department has to meet Nandu. Nandu, who's a nurse, records the following details, whatever are provided to you at the bottom of your screen, as visible on your screen. He makes a note of all these details as soon as he interacts with the patient. And these details are shared with Dr. Dev through the database, because when Nandu is recording these details, he records it directly into the system, and Dr. Dev in his laptop can directly have access to all the details of patient Prem. There is already a structure, and Nandu is only going to fit the details into this structure. Hence, this data is referred to as structured data. The second one is semi-structured data. Now, please, if you can kindly look at the screen below, you are able to see that there are certain things that are going to be common for all the patients visiting this particular health facility. But you are also able to see one more thing included, that is conclusion. The conclusion part is an open-ended activity of this particular blood test report, in which the doctor is going to make a note of the observations. Now, quickly, let me tell you who are the people involved in this. We have two participants in this caselet. One is Dr. Vishnu, who's working with the patients, and we have one more doctor, that is Dr. Mamata. Both of these doctors work with migraine patients. Both these doctors work with migraine patients. And Dr. Vishnu, with his experience and expertise, notes that patient having migraine has high platelet count. Patient having migraine has high platelet count. Whatever the observation that Dr. Vishnu has made, he has spoken about that observation, or he had made a note of that observation in the conclusion section. Right? Now, please look at the screen and then just look at the highlighted part of the screen. How is the hospital data stored? The hospital only stores structured data. Okay, but now please look at this. Conclusion is doctor's observation, Dr. Vishnu's observation, and he has written in detail about how the platelet count will be high in migraine patients. Now, Dr. Mamata, after some time, she was trying to look at these details of how to look at the observations. Dr. Mamata is trying to access the observations by Dr. Vishnu, so that she can just look at which is the best treatment that she could offer to her patient. Then she realizes that whatever the observation Dr. Vishnu has written in conclusion section is not stored, because the hospital data only stores structured data in its database, and conclusion is not structured data. It is a collection of long strings of data, means it is a statement, it is a sentence, and sentence is not structured, it is rather unstructured. If you have to write a conclusion, you will have your own way of writing conclusion. I have my own way, and the XYZ person has his own way, so it is not going to be the same. As it is not going to be the same conclusion, it will be referred to as unstructured data, because here you have a combination of structured and unstructured. It is referred to as semi-structured data. Now, we will look at one more case of unstructured data with regard to this multi-speciality hospital. In this case, we find three doctors, Dr. Sami, Dr. Raj, and Dr. Rahul. All these three doctors are working with patients suffering from gastrointestinal problems. Now, the good news about this hospital is that Dr. Raj has found a combination of drugs which is successfully curing the gastrointestinal problems patients are facing. And Dr. Raj in detail has written about his observations to Dr. Sami and Dr. Rahul through an email. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think that the database of the medical facility has access to the long emails that Dr. Raj has written to Dr. Sami? Very simple. Why? Because very clearly we have mentioned hospital data is only going to store structured data, not unstructured. But the long conversations that Dr. Raj had with Dr. Sami and Dr. Rahul about the combination of drugs that is treating gastrointestinal problem is unstructured. So we have to understand the fact that as a researcher, my challenge is not only looking at structured data, equally it is important for me to also understand how to work with semi-structured and unstructured data. That is basically what I wanted to convey in my first part of the session. Now, moving further, having understood that data could be broadly categorized as structured, unstructured, and semi-structured, it is important for us to now note how would you measure these data, whatever the data that you are referring to. Like, for example, if I was referring earlier to an example of consuming water, water cannot be measured in kgs. Water can only be measured in liters. Similarly, whenever you talk about data, there are 4 different ways in which you can measure data. There are 4 ways in which you can measure data. The first one is nominal data, ordinal scale. Both these are applicable if the data is qualitative in nature. You can do when the data is quantitative. With your permission, I want to share. Oh, perfect. I'll be doing that. Shushma ji, data is structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. We want to know what are the different ways in which we can measure data. There are 4 different ways in which you could measure data. One is nominal data, ordinal data, interval data, and then the last one is ratio data. These are the 4 different types of scales of measurement. Are you able to view the Microsoft Teams whiteboard now? Please, can you kindly respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, perfect. Right. Now, if you are able to view the screen, please kindly let me spend 5 minutes of time towards this because it is extremely essential. Generally, we end up using a different scale and a different analytical technique, which leads us to misleading outcomes or results. Hence, our interpretation is also wrong. Hence, we have to understand what are the different scales of measurement. Basically, as I said, there are 4 scales of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And I already informed you that nominal and ordinal are only applicable when the data is qualitative in nature. interval and ratio are applicable when the data is quantitative in nature. Okay, now let us quickly look at 4 examples and then try to understand what is meant by each of these scales of measurement. Right. I am having 3 types of customers. I am basically a business company which is into providing sanitizers, Now, what I am trying to understand is, I am looking at the business market in Hyderabad, and when I look at the business market in Hyderabad, based on the income levels of the citizens in Hyderabad, I have divided them into 3 categories. The first one is high income group, the second one is middle income group, and the third one is low income group. If you are arranging the data items which are qualitative in nature on a particular scale, which can be from minimum to maximum or maximum to minimum, then such type of scale is referred to as ordinal scale. Such type of scale is referred to as ordinal scale. Now, can you tell me, if no such arrangement, no such sequencing can be done in qualitative data, then it is referred to as nominal scale. You are not having any possibility to make any, you are not able to arrange them in any sequence or order. Then you refer to it as nominal scale. Now, can you tell me, given this business case, is it of nominal scale or ordinal scale? I would want you to kindly respond. Is it nominal scale or ordinal scale? Wonderful. It is ordinal scale, for the fact that from low to high, high to low, that means you are able to arrange it on a scale. Okay, now let me talk about the different types of four-wheelers brands that are available. Now, I am just giving you few examples. There are many, but I am just limiting to this. Hyundai, okay, and then we will talk about Maruti, okay, and we will talk about Honda and maybe Volkswagen. Okay, now, can you tell me, I think you agree to the fact that this is also qualitative data. Having said so, which scale of measurement would you be using it? Do you use nominal data or ordinal data here? Nominal scale. Why? Because you are just merely listing the four-wheeler brands available in Hyderabad. Now, I am just trying to twist my question further. My question is, what is the priority that I assign to these brands? What is the priority that I assign to these brands? If I have to talk about that, right, if I have to talk about that, one, my first option if I wish to buy a new car would be Volkswagen. 2, I would be interested in Hyundai. 3, I would be interested in Honda. 4, I would have a last priority Maruti. Can you tell me what type of scale are we referring to here? Ordinal. Perfect. Right. Now, these are the 2 different types of scales that are available with qualitative data. Now, let's go ahead and then try to understand more about interval and ratio scale. Right. I am just presenting a small example to you. All of you will have to undertake an examination or a small test as a part of the FDP program of Atal that you have undertaken. and assume that the organizers are conducting the examination for 30 marks. You do agree to the fact that all of you can score either 0, 30, or any marks between them. Hence, do you agree to the fact that it is quantitative data? Yes. If you agree to this to be quantitative data, what is the type of scale that is associated with that? Is it ratio or interval? Probably you will have to look at it again. Is it ratio or interval? Okay. Now let me quickly put forth one more example to you. Defective products being manufactured by a particular company for August 2020. Okay, it has been between 20 to 100. The defective number of products that have been manufactured for the month of August 2020 has been lying between 20 and 100. Now, can you tell me what is the type of data we are referring to? Is it interval scale or ratio scale? What is the difference between interval scale and ratio scale? That is really interesting to us. Okay, that is where exactly we will be discussing about this particular topic now. Just give me a minute, please. All right. I'm sure you are able to view the PPT now. Hello? Are you able to view the PPT?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. Right. Now, what is that we are trying to understand? Nominal and ordinal scale is clear to us, but I find that we have little confusion in interval and ratio. Okay. What is meant by interval data? If we are able to compare between two values, then you call it as interval data type or interval scale of measurement. When you are not able to compare, rather you are only able to measure it. No comparison, but only it leaves you with a measurement. If you are able to look down, what is that we are saying? Melissa's college record shows 36 credit hours earned. There are two people that we are talking about. And the second student, who is it? Kevin, his credit record is 72. Now, what is that I am drawing? We are stating that Kevin has scored twice that of Melissa. If you want to show an association in the form of a ratio, 1:2, exactly in this case, then such type of measurement is referred to as ratio scale of measurement. Having understood the different types of measurements, now we move to the next topic. What is statistics? Extremely, extremely essential for us to understand. We do know that statistics is basically a tool that enables you and me in decision making. Now, when I say that it is a tool which enables in decision making, what is very important for us to understand is what are the various activities that it undertakes in order to enable us in decision making. Basically, statistics performs 4 activities in a sequence. They cannot be rearranged. This is the sequence in which statistics performs its activities. 1, collect data. 2, organize data. 3, analyze data. And 4 is interpret the results. When you talk about data collection, there are 2 different sources from which we can collect data for our research study. One is primary data. The second one is secondary data. What is meant by primary data? You have a cause And for that cause, you are collecting the information. Okay, let me quickly put forth the query to you. I am sure all of you have heard about census survey. I am also sure that all of you have heard about NSSO survey. Can you tell me, just a minute, uh, is my voice not audible? Is this the case with everyone, or is it?
It's audible, ma'am. It's audible.
Right, thank you. Right. What we are trying to understand is what is the difference between primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the data that is selected for our utility. Like, for example, I want to understand customer preference for sanitizers. Now, if I am collecting the data for myself, then it becomes primary data. Okay, now, let me try to look at a report that has been published in Times of India 2 months back. It has given list of sanitizers which are banned, and it also has given me the list of sanitizers which are in demand. Okay, if I am using that information in my research work, then it becomes secondary data, because it is collected by someone else and you are utilizing the data for your research work. Hence, it is called as secondary data. I think you are aware already about, because all of you are researchers, you are all aware of what are the different sources of primary and secondary data. Still, I'll take a minute of your time and then quickly put forth my little of experience before you with your kind permission. I fortunately have been associated with a research project on behalf of my institute, wherein we worked on study of socio-economic conditions of minorities in India. And this was a study that has been sponsored by ICSSR Government of India. And I have been the principal investigator for this study. So during the study, we also had to collect secondary data and primary data for our research study. So quickly, I'll put forth these explanation through this caselet. So I have studied about socio-economic conditions of minorities in India. Right. Now for this research study, this is again a very important question that generally researchers have. Do we base our research paper or research study only on primary data, or do we base our research study only on secondary data source, or is it recommended that we use both of them? It is highly recommended that you use both primary as well as data. More authentic your observations will be. Now, having said so, what I have measured under the socio-economic conditions is, one, we wanted to understand how the literacy levels of these minorities have been in India. We also tried to look at how their health conditions have been, how their employment conditions have been, and we also tried to understand, did they have access to government schemes and bank credit. This was broadly that we have studied in this particular research work. Now, having said so, you would want to know what are the primary data sources that I have considered for this research study. The first primary data source that we used for our research study was collecting the data from the people who are associated from these minority groups. For that, we administered questionnaires to them. We administered structured questionnaires in which we have measured the literacy conditions, health employment conditions as well, and we also measured their access to government schemes as well as bank credit. This was one way of collecting primary data. Right. Now, let me talk about the second method that we have used in order to collect primary data. Because this was only a 20 lakhs project for 2 years, you have to understand that it is not possible for us with this bare minimum money to conduct a research study in all the states of India. So we limited our study only to 4 states with each state with a state representing each region: north, south, east, west. From every region we collected one state. Okay, I think all of us do agree to the fact that whenever we ask the respondents about a particular thing, whether they are happy or not, generally the citizens' mentality will be, no, I am not happy, I expect more and more. That is general tendency. So it is not enough only collecting the information from the respondents through questionnaires. Equally, it was important for me to understand what is government's understanding about the socio-economic conditions of minorities. For that, we had to meet the Minister of Minorities of each of the states that we have selected. Okay, and my questionnaire assumed that it has 6 pages, not assumed, it had 6 pages exactly. Can I sit before a minister and then ask him to fill a questionnaire which is having 6 pages? Do you really think a minister would spend his time on filling my questionnaire? Definitely not. So henceforth, I have used interview method as a data collection method for having an understanding from the ministers of these 4 states who have been handling the portfolio of minorities. Then there is also one more method which we have used in order to collect data from collect data on this particular topic. The third method that we used was focus group discussions. This is also a primary data source. What did I mean by focus group discussion? I had an observation, or I had a respondent who could talk about literacy. For that, I had considered an academician who has been involved working with minorities. Then we looked at a healthcare worker. So one more participant of this focus group discussion. Generally, focus group discussion will be a group of 8 to 10 persons. So we had an academician, we had a health worker to understand how the socio-economic or health condition specifically is. We had for knowing more about the employment status, we had an employee representing from public sector unit as well as private unit. I had 2 persons. Then we also wanted to have a broader understanding about what are the different schemes that are provided. So we also tried to include politicians, one from the ruling party and one from the opposition party, so on. I am trying to have 360 degrees understanding from all the stakeholders associated. Then we are referring to it as focus group discussions. Apart from this, do you have any other method for data collection? Yes, we have one more method, which though I have not used, the other method of collecting primary data is by observing. Again, I'll have to share one example with you. It so happened that I took my students to a manufacturing unit of steel in Vizag. And then I said, beta, please kindly look at the way they are trying to work in extremely hot conditions, because they are considering that they are, what do I say? They are heating the steel and converting it into molten steel. Right. So what I wanted my students to understand is, how are the health conditions of the workers working under such extreme conditions, extreme temperatures? So when they were trying to talk to the workers on the floor, the workers denied to take up their questions. The reason was simple. They did not want to be disturbed during the work because they are dealing with temperatures which are extremely high, and any small amount of molten steel, if it falls on their skin, they will be dead. So how do my students collect data then? How did they do? They stood on the floor. They were trying to observe the way the work was undergoing, and accordingly, on detailed observation, they could draw some conclusions on the health conditions of the employees working there. Can we also consider the CC camera footage as? Yes, you can. Very much you can. We can also consider video recordings too. Again, when we try to work with the data, we will be refining them. I'll be talking about that as well, Shushma ji. Right? Have I answered you? Okay, right. Thank you. Right. So this was primarily the data that we have considered from primary sources. Now you have a question for me. How did you consider secondary data for your case? What is the secondary data that you have collected in your case? In my case, I needed literacy levels. For that, Census Survey of India has released its 2011 census survey report, from which I drew the data pertaining to all the indicators that I have specified earlier. But you are aware of the fact that census survey is only conducted once in 10 years, and this study has been undertaken in the year 2015, 2017. And in 2017, if I refer to 2011, maybe the data is obsolete. In such a case, it was extremely essential for me to back the information with something that is contemporary. So I used the NSO reports, which were put forth by MOSPI, Ministry of Statistical Program and Implementation. These reports also were giving us small indications, though not in detail, about the various indicators that I have discussed. Besides this, the secondary data has also been covered from such a report. It is one of the report where detailed work has been done on minorities, and this data is pertaining to 2006. Apart from that, we also checked onto reports that are released by various ministries, Ministry of Health, Family Welfare, etc. All those ministry reports were also considered to have some understanding. Hence, all this become our secondary data. Besides that, we also considered some research articles which were published in good journals, and we also tried to look at data which was published in newspapers pertaining to the indicators that I wanted to include. Hence, all these, whatever that I have collected, they were not intended for my research. They were collected for some other purpose, and I used that data into my research work. Hence, the data becomes secondary data for me. Chatterjee Saab, I could not get your query. MYSTRI, mystery shopping. I have not understood that. Can you give me more details about it?
Mystery shopping.
Right. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, mystery shopping. Yeah, mystery shopping is done by to estimate the competitors positioning in the market and what they're actually and it is been used as a benchmarking for any organization for their certain product, and beside setting up their price, before setting up their price for the same.
Okay.
So in
Okay.
this kind of phenomena, usually in disguise, someone from the competitors company, maybe some employee, they'll be going to some store or some other competitors area and observe cautiously and act as a customer over there and observe the things that they require the data for their own organizational strategy and come back.
Oh,
So
perfect.
so can we say that this is a kind of observational data?
Sir, as far as mystery shopping, to whatever you have explained and whatever I have understood, it is also one of the methods of collecting primary data, and they are not administering questionnaires, neither conducting interviews, nor taking up focus
No.
group discussions, which leaves with an option of observation method, because they are not, they are being only passive customers there to collect primarily with a motive to collect data. Hence, it would be observation method, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right. I hope I have made myself clear till here. That's primarily what I wanted to you to understand, that primary data and secondary data are equally very important for our research study. Henceforth, this is how I have used it in my case, and you can also use the same way in your case. And I'm sure you have lots of research work already undertaken on this. So I thought I'll give you an example with my research, how I have used it. Right. Now going further, are you able to see the PPT, please? Yes. Right. Fine. Now you are
Yes,
done
ma'am.
with yeah, thank you. You are done with collecting data. We have understood primary sources of data. We have understood secondary sources of data. Now that the data is with us, now we need to move one step further. What is the next step? Okay, how do I draw insights from the data? In order to draw insights from the data, it becomes extremely essential for us to organize the data in a readable format. Okay, like let me give you an example. Just what we are trying to understand is you are I'm so sorry, you are having this N95 face mask. I know I'm giving you lots of queries with regard to COVID-19, because this is what brings all of us together. That's the reason I'm giving you those examples. Right. So we are just trying to understand from the users of N95 mask, how do they feel? Do they feel that the breathing is easy in N95 mask, or do they have any difficulty? So I have collected this information from 500 respondents. Please understand, I have collected this information from 500 respondents. Now, when I have collected this information from 500 respondents, you are aware of the fact that the respondents could be males as well as females. 1. 2. The respondents might be residing in 4 different regions of the country. I'm talking with regard to region, means some might be in the north, the south, east, west, because I had considered or collected responses from pan-India. So now what I intend to do, all the 500 responses that I have collected, I wish to categorize them or organize them based on gender. I wish to organize the data based on region. If I wish to do so, that means we have moved to the second activity of statistics. Basically, there are 4 different ways in which you could organize the data. There are 4 different ways in which you could organize the data. The traditional rudimentary approach of organizing the data is as an array. What is it? You have some data items given, you just arrange them in an ascending or descending order, and that is referred to as an array. But as I've told you, it is a rudimentary approach which currently we are not using. Maybe because I have only 30 students, it is easy for me to arrange the elements. Even then, how many zeros I have? 1, 2. How many ones I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to start counting them, which becomes extremely complex when the data set is large. Hence, this approach is no more followed practically. Then, what is the other method in which you could organize the data, which we today also use in SPSS? The other way of organizing the data is frequency distribution tables. Actually, I wanted to tell you that frequency table and frequency distribution are two different things. They cannot be used intermittently. Right. What is meant by frequency table? What are we trying to do in frequency table? You are trying to group qualitative data. Then you call it as frequency table. Then what do you mean by frequency distribution? If you are trying to group quantitative data, then it is referred to as frequency distribution. The same examples I have presented here in this slide. Now, having understood this, there are two different methods in which you could draw your frequency distribution, that is quantitative data. One is exclusive method and the other one is inclusive method. I have a question for you. Please, I need your help. I am earning 30 lakhs. I am earning 30 lakhs from the company that I have built. From the company that I have built. Now, can you tell me, where should I enter my company's value? Should I enter it here, or should I enter it in this class interval? In which class interval do you want me to enter? Is it 20 to 30 or 30 to 40? Perfect. Perfect. It should be 30 to 40 for the fact that this method is referred to as exclusive method. This representation is referred to as exclusive method. In exclusive method, the upper limit will not be included. Only lower limit is included. So hence, when I have to write a company which is having 30 lakhs of its income or profit, then that company should be added to the second class interval, but not to the first class interval. But is that easy here in this case? Yes, very clearly you will add it to the second class interval. This method is referred to as inclusive method. Right, this is just for your understanding. Now, you have a question for me. You said that when you are talking about quantitative data, you are referring to the tabulation of data, or you are organizing the data in the form of frequency distribution. That is, a frequency distribution are available, it seems, three. The first one is simple frequency distribution. Second one is relative frequency distribution. And third one is cumulative frequency distribution. Frequency distribution may broadly be classified as simple, relative, and cumulative. What is meant by simple frequency table? Against the class interval, if you are pairing its frequency, means how many students do belong to the age group of 20 to 24, it seems 2. How many students, how many respondents belong to the age group of 40 to 44? 8. If I am grouping a value with the class interval, and the value is referred to as frequency, and this structure will be referred to as simple frequency table. Now, moving further, what is meant by a relative frequency table? Relative frequency table is basically a ratio, or rather we would say, if you are considering class frequency, that is 2, divided by the total frequency. 2 by 50 is 0.04. That is 4% of the respondents belong to the age group 20 to 24. Okay, now you have a question for me. What is the, okay, how much percentage of the respondents belong to the age group 50 to 54? Can you kindly look at the screen and tell me how much percentage of the respondents belong to the age group 50 to 54? As visible on your screen, it is 0.04. Please multiply it with 100. It will give you 4%. So totally how many people? 4% of the respondents are belonging to this age group. Now, please take my question again. I am just redefining my question. How many customers belong to the age group less than 50? How many customers belong to the age group less than 50? So immediately what will you do? 2 plus 3 plus 13 plus 18 plus 8 plus 4. Thank God you have only around 10 values here. Sorry, 7 values here. So you are able to add them manually. Assume you are having 700 values. Will you be able to add them manually? May not be. Henceforth, which distribution would you prefer? You would prefer cumulative frequency distribution. What is meant by cumulative frequency distribution? It seems if you want to know the sum of values above a particular class interval or below a particular class interval, then we build cumulative frequency table. Now, how many respondents age group is less than 50? Can you please look at your screen and give me the direct answer? As visible on your screen, it is 48. I don't have to add it till here. So hence, this type of table is referred to as cumulative frequency table. So in order to tabulate quantitative data, there are primarily 4 types of tables. Quantitative data, you have 3 different types of distributions. 1, simple frequency table. 2, relative frequency table. And third one is cumulative frequency distribution. Okay, now I am sure you have a question for me. You said that there are 4 ways in which we could organize the data. Can you let me know what is the 4th way of organizing data? The 4th way of organizing data is referred to as contingency table. I am sure you are aware of contingency table already, but still let me just spend 1 minute of time on that. Right. Now, what is meant by contingency table? If you remember, earlier I was referring to an example. Gender, I want to divide this particular 500 observations that I have collected into based on gender and region. Okay. For gender, I considered male and female. For region, I considered north, south, east, and west. Okay. So male, female for gender, and then north, south, east, west. If this type of tabulation you find not a single variable, but 2 or more variables, such type of tabulation or organizing the data is referred to as contingency table, or it can also be referred to as cross tabulation. Right, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to talk with regard to. 1 minute, let me take these queries. There are some queries. I'll just pause for let me just take these queries, please. In chi-square, in ANOVA, I didn't understand what you were responding. Are you saying these are the techniques that could be used? I didn't understand for which have you responded. Chi-square is a test which could be used on contingency table, but the table is referred to as contingency table, or it can be referred to as cross tabulation, right? Fine. Right. Now we will also try to understand, now that we know how to organize contingency table and chi-square. Contingency table is the tabulation of data on contingency table. If you want to perform any statistical test, then you would apply chi-square test. Okay, fine. Let's go further. I am not going to use this caselet, because how do you create a simple frequency table? How do you create a relative frequency table? And how do you create a cumulative frequency table? That is explained in detail. As I have left the slide with PPT with you, please kindly go through this. Right. Now, one more very important point that I wanted to make before we leave this slide is, whenever you want to represent a simple frequency table graphically, which graph is recommended, especially when you are using SPSS, please be aware of this condition, because I find many a times, you know, the graphs are not properly considered. You just take any data, you have anything in your hand, you just use that chart. It doesn't happen so. So hence, whenever you want to plot a simple frequency data, the recommended graph is bar chart. Whenever you want to plot relative frequency, it could also be a frequency polygon too. Whenever you want to plot relative frequency, what is the recommended graph as visible on your screen? Pie chart. Okay, so this is what you will always have to keep in mind. Right. Now, having said so, how do you find this simple frequency table, relative frequency table, and cumulative frequency table in your SPSS outputs? Here, please look at the second part of your screen. As visible on your second part of the screen, this is an analysis of a small query. How do you rate this course? There are 4 options that are provided to the audience. Very good, good, neutral, and bad. Okay, and how many participants have attended this course? 183 participants have attended this course. Can someone tell me, whatever is given under frequency, what is that frequency referring to, whatever we have discussed till now? Can someone tell me what is that referring to?
Most of the people said that it is very good. 93 people. That's the frequency what it says, and percentage is also high.
Right, perfect. Nini, what I am asking you is, we have discussed about 3 different types of frequency distributions: simple frequency distribution, relative frequency distribution, and cumulative. Can you tell me what does frequency here relate to whatever we have discussed earlier? Does it relate to simple frequency? Does it relate to relative frequency? Or does it relate
simple frequency?
Simple, ma'am. Simple frequency. Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Excellent. It is simple frequency table. Now, if you please look at the third column, that is this valid percent column, and can you tell me what frequency distribution is it referring to?
Cumulative, ma'am.
Please see properly. Yeah, exactly. It is referring to relative frequency distribution, because how did you get this value? You arrived at this value by dividing the frequency divided by the total number of responses. 41 by 183 gives you 0.224. Multiply it with 100 in order to get the percentage. Sorry. Hence, it becomes 22.4. So it means that 22% of the respondents felt that the course was very good, while 51% felt that the course was good. Have I made sense till here? Now, please kindly look at the last column. Can you tell me which distribution are we referring to there? Superb. It is cumulative frequency. So what we try to understand in this session is what is simple frequency, what is relative frequency, and what is cumulative frequency. Please remember, as a researcher, if you are interested only in aligning your class intervals with its frequency, you will refer to the first column. No, I want to align the class interval or these values with percentages. If you want to align it with percentages, can you suggest me which distribution do you recommend? Percentages. Relative, very good. Now, I do not want to go by frequency, nor do I want to go by percentages. Rather, I want sum of all the values till 52nd class interval, all the values above 52nd class interval. What would you suggest? Right, perfect. Cumulative frequency distribution. That's it, all about frequency distributions. Now, we move on to the next phase. How do I implement this in SPSS? As such, it will be taught to you. I am just presenting how it is actually done. You will use your SPSS data editor. Under that, you have analyze menu. Under analyze menu, you have descriptive statistics, under which you have frequencies. Under frequencies, when you click this frequencies, you get this window. In this window, for which variable you wish to create the frequency, that particular variable you would select and press OK. Just to give me a minute, please. Right, I'm sorry. Right, so this is how you generate frequency table. Do I assume that you have understood what is meant by organizing data as of now? Right, perfect. Yeah, there was a question from Madam Shushma, what graph do we use? What graph is recommended? OGIVE graph is recommended for cumulative frequency distribution. Generally, whenever we work with SPSS data, mostly our concern or concentration will be more on either frequencies or relative frequencies. So that being the reason, I just skipped cumulative. But otherwise, for cumulative frequency graph, you would use OGIVE graph, right? Right, let's continue.
Ma'am, can I ask something?
Yeah, please, sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm a teacher in a college here. So most of the MBA students in the summer internship report, when they make the summer internship report and present before us, so most of them have, started with the, qualitative data and end with some kind of frequency distribution tables. That too not in proper form, but somehow some of them have done it on the bar chart, that's all. And how can we make it more insightful? Like, do they have to adapt the inferential statistics, or is it sufficient for their summer internship report? I think this question may be out of bit question.
Right.
But
Chatterjee Saab, I thoroughly take your question because I also work with one of the management institutes in India. It's really been very hectic for all the teachers to correct the summer internship projects. In spite of we being good researchers, somewhere we fail at uh, probably preparing our students to be good researchers. The fact is that generally students are really scared of numbers, which end up just preparing simple frequency tables and cumulative frequency tables, or rather, I would say relative frequency tables. So, to be very honest, sir, I think you also agree to that fact that whenever these students enter into any business scenario, they will not be preparing frequency tables. Frequency table does not give any insightful information. It only talks about the current data. That's exactly what I wanted to cover in my fourth part of the presentation. Today, we cannot limit our understanding to the existing data. The word of there is looking for data that is to be projected, that is to be forecasted. If we don't look at that, then we fail probably as students as well as teachers. So we have to make it compulsory for our students to include at least one predictive tool. At least correlation regression is something that every student is aware of during their first year in statistics or in economics also. So henceforth, sir, it becomes a bounded duty. Sir, I also have to accept the fact that we also have the same challenge, and I'm sure most we have 115 participants. All the 115 participants may be also facing the same. I would humbly submit that mere frequency distributions would not be enough to call a paper as a quality research paper. To be very frank, when any paper comes to me for adjudication, very clearly I write to the editors that this paper cannot be permitted to be published because it does not carry any models or it does not have any concrete statistical validations. Though I may sound a little rude, but that's the fact. Ultimately, we are researchers. We got to get some insightful information. If that insightful information is not provided, then I don't think it could be referred to as research at all.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Have answered? Right. Thank you, sir. Right. Now we move on to the next phase of statistics or next activity of statistics, that is analyzing data. When we talk about analyzing data, this is in continuation to the discussion just we had with Chatterjee Saab. There are two different types of analysis that we carry with data. One is descriptive statistics, the other one is inferential statistics. These days, we try to limit our understanding only providing some additional information of the data that we have, which is not crucial data, because it only gives us some understanding, but just mere understanding will not be enough. Insightful information is what is necessary or the order of the day. So henceforth, descriptive statistics enables you to work with existing data, whereas when we talk about inferential statistics, we not only talk about existing data, but we also use past data. Past data plus existing or current data will enable you to project, forecast, predict. Hence, the tool that is used in order to predict or forecast, all those tools fall under the domain of inferential statistics. Now, having said so, what are, I probably would pause a minute with your permission, and then I would want to go to Microsoft whiteboard, because I want to explain a concept here with your permission. Right. Fine. Let's quickly look at whenever we talk about analyzing data or data analysis, we have to first understand. The first question that should be answered is how many variables are there in your
బాగా
data
చెప్తున్నారు
set?
అని చెప్పారు. అంటే నేనేమన్నా అంత సీన్ లేదు మేడం, వాళ్ళు ఎవరింటారో కూడా తెలియదు నాకు. వాళ్ళు ఆన్లైన్ లో పెట్టేసి మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టేసి అప్పుడే కూకుంటారు. అట్లా వినేటోళ్ళు ఎవరు ఉన్నారు మేడం అంటే, నాకైతే తెలిసి వాళ్ళు వినరు. నేను మధ్యలో క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా చెప్పాను, చెప్పుకుంటూ వెళ్ళిపోతా, అడగాను, ఎప్పుడైనా ఒకసారి అడుగుతాను.
I request the participants to mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Right, now let's continue. Whenever we talk about data analysis, the first question that we should ask ourselves is how many variables are associated with the data set? Okay, do you have a single variable to analyze? Do you have two variables to analyze? Or do you have more than two variables to analyze? Depending upon that, we will select our method. If I have a single variable to analyze, we refer to it as univariate analysis, or we use univariate techniques to analyze a single variable. If we have two variables to analyze, then we use bivariate techniques. If we have two variables, then we use bivariate techniques. If I have more than two variables, then we use multivariate techniques. Broadly, statistical techniques used for analysis can be categorized as univariate techniques, bivariate techniques, and multivariate techniques. Now, having understood about univariate, bivariate, and multivariate, it is very important for us to understand with an example. Right, I want to understand how much is the average sales for the month of August 2020. Can you tell me how many variables are we referring to here, please? In this caselet? One, exactly. We are only referring to sales. Hence, we call it as univariate analysis. Now, let me talk about one more thing. I am talking about sales of sunscreen lotions and the discounts that were offered. Sales of sunscreen lotions and the discounts that were offered in the month of August 2020. Can you please let me know? Right, very good. Before I could ask you, you have already responded. There are two variables, hence we would apply bivariate techniques. Again, we will consider the same example. We are having sales. Okay, we are having sales. I am not only considering I am not only considering discounts, I am also considering price. And how has been the sales for the month of August 2020? Can you tell me how many variables do we have? We have three variables, means more than two. When we say it is more than two, you have to understand that we will be using multivariate analysis or multivariate techniques. Broadly, in statistics, we discussed that we have univariate, bivariate, and multivariate techniques. With your kind permission, I would continue with univariate techniques. What is meant by univariate? As we have already discussed, only one variable will be analyzed. Please kindly permit me to go further. How many different types of tools do we have under univariate techniques? Basically, we have four. One is measures of central tendency. The second one is measures of central tendency. The second one is measures of dispersion. The third one is measures of skewness. And the fourth one is measures of kurtosis. Basically, there are 4 different types of analysis that could be carried out in order to gain more information about that variable. What are those? Measures of central tendency, dispersion, skewness, and kurtosis. We have heard about all these things, but what we need to know is more about a more practical approach about it. Right. In your previous example of sales, I am not interested in how much has been the sales on all the 30 days of August 2020. On all the 30 days of August 2020, rather, what am I interested in? How much is the average sales? Because, for example, assume that my boss calls me and he asks me, Shaheen, how much is the sales that we see for August? I cannot say, sir, first day 20,000, third day 30,000, fourth day 10,000. If I start reading all the 30 days, then he would get irritated. Rather, I say, sir, this average sales recorded for the month of August 2020 has been around 25 lakhs. Yes, you are representing a value that is lying at the center of the distribution. You have some values below 25 lakhs and you also have some values above 25 lakhs. Hence, you are trying to measure the value that is located at the center of the distribution. Hence, to know that you apply measures of central tendency. Do I have any queries? Quickly, let me look at if you have any queries. If not, I can continue. Right. Can I continue then? I assume that there are no queries. Right. Now you want to know what is meant by measures of dispersion. Then what is measures of dispersion? It seems when your boss asks you, you said that the average sales has been 25 lakhs for the month of August 2020. Then he asks you, can you tell me how much is the minimum sales and how much is the maximum sales recorded for the month of August 2020? Then you say, sir, the minimum sales recorded is 10 lakhs and the maximum sales recorded is 30 lakhs. Means you are not only interested in the data that is located at the center, rather you are interested in data that is dispersing from the center. Hence the name measures of dispersion. Now, we move further and understand what is meant by measures of skewness. Under measures of skewness, let me quickly show you something, a caselet, and then discuss more about measures of skewness. Right. Can you tell me, when is the sales of sunscreen lotion the same throughout the year? Is the sales of sunscreen lotion same throughout the year? I would want one of you to kindly respond, please. No, sunscreen lotion sales is not going to be the same. It is more in summer. As rainy season approaches, it falls down, and in winter, its sales further falls down. Such type of business scenarios also exist. Such type of business scenarios are referred to as skewed distributions, or they can also be referred to as asymmetric distributions. Okay, so whatever the tests that you would be discussing in the due course are applicable only when the distribution is symmetric in nature. They cannot be applied when the distribution is asymmetric. So what becomes essential for us when we work with the data is the data symmetric or asymmetric? That has to be understood. In order to understand that, the measure that is used to check the data for symmetry or asymmetry is referred to as measures of skewness. Okay, with your kind permission, I would be sharing a very, very, very important information which you also kindly remember during your research study, because we get data, but how to analyze data is where we fail. Okay, now, if the skewness value, assume that Sk is representing skewness value. If the skewness value is lying between minus 0.5 and 0.5 barring 0, if it is 0, we say that the distribution is symmetric. If the skewness value is 0, we say that the distribution is symmetric. If the value of Sk lies between minus 0.5 and 0.5 barring 0, then we say the distribution is not completely symmetric, but what is it? It is fairly symmetric. The distribution is fairly symmetric. Now let me give you one more case. The distribution value may lie between minus 1 and 0.5, or 0.5 0.5 and plus 1. In the second case, we refer to the distribution as moderately skewed. We refer to the distribution as moderately skewed. The third is the case when the skewness value is less than minus 1 or it is greater than 1. In such a case, we say that it is highly skewed. In such a case, we say that the distribution is highly skewed. In the case of highly skewed and moderately skewed distributions, we cannot directly apply what test as visible on your screen. We cannot directly apply parametric test. Have I made sense till here, please? Okay, I would. Right. Quickly, let me tell you, basically, I'm sorry. Okay. Basically, skewness value, if you are calculating using measures of skewness, which is denoted by SQ in my case, if Sk is equal to 0, then we say that the distribution is a symmetric distribution. There's no problem. Directly we can apply parametric tests. Parametric test means t-test, f-test, all those. Sorry. No, skewness is rather lying between minus 0.5 to 0.5 as visible on your scale. If it is lying between them, we say it is fairly symmetric, not perfectly symmetric. Even in this case, you can apply parametric tests. But the third is the case wherein Sk is lying between minus 1 to minus 0.5, or it is lying between 0.5 to plus 1. If this is the case, then you are calling the distribution as moderately skewed. In this case, we cannot directly apply parametric test. First of all, you need to normalize your data and then apply parametric tests. The fourth is the case when skewness value is less than minus 1 or it is greater than 1. If that is the case, you say that the distribution is highly skewed. Your data is highly skewed. In this case also, we cannot directly apply parametric tests. Have I made sense till here, please?
Yes, ma'am, very clear.
Perfect. Please remember, these are very, very, very important points that we will be discussing when we start working with the SPSS tomorrow. Right. Now,
Madam, can you just explain again the last point, why it won't be applied for the parametric test? Sorry.
okay.
Thank you, please.
Okay, just give me a minute. Right. Okay. We find that If the skewness value is lying between minus 0.5 and 0.5, your distribution is going to be like this. That is a normal distribution. Okay, in this case, we will talk about arithmetic mean, we will talk about standard deviation, which I'll be discussing in tomorrow's session. Okay, now the value of skewness is either less than minus 0.5 or greater than 0.5, then it will be positively skewed or negatively skewed. In this case, when I take the average will either tend to left or will tend to right side. Then your average, your deviations, whatever you are measuring, they are not correct. Hence, as they are not correct, you cannot apply parametric test, because parametric tests start with an assumption that the distribution is normal. Parametric test starts with an assumption that the distribution is normal, whereas non-parametric tests like F distribution or ANOVA, rather I would refer, or chi-square test, they take the distribution to be positive distributions. Hence, they are referred to as non-parametric tests. We cannot apply parametric tests if the skewness value is anything less than minus 0.5 or greater than 0.5. Have I made sense now?
Yes, ma'am, very clear. Thank you. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Now, please just to give me 5 more minutes, Shweta madam. I'll just complete this skewness and then maybe tomorrow we can continue with the rest.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, no problem.
Just 5 minutes. Right. Now we will look at kurtosis value. What is this measures of kurtosis? Because that is also used for univariate analysis. Okay, before I go ahead, maybe I'll quickly draw something on the screen, and I want to understand this from a member here. Okay. This is referring to female group. This is referring to male group. Okay. Basically, what we have measured is how are the patient's level of the respondents based on gender. We have measured how are the patient's levels based on gender. Can someone help me from male respondents? What do you understand? Chatterjee Saab, not you, please.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, someone else, please. Oh, wow. Thank you, Patel Saab. What we could infer from here is the patient level in male is comparatively low with female. Means patient's level is more in females. How did you draw that conclusion? Based on the spread and peak, we could draw this conclusion. So when I say this, why is kurtosis used? How does it enable you and me in interpreting the data set? Okay. Now, please kindly listen to me. I'll submit one more perspective, but for today, please take this perspective. If kurtosis value is equal to 0, if the kurtosis value is equal to 0, you say that the distribution is a normal distribution. The distribution is a normal distribution. If the kurtosis value is less than 0, if the kurtosis value is less than 0, you see that the distribution has long tails. The distribution has long tails. If the kurtosis value is greater than 0, if the kurtosis value is greater than 0, you see that the distribution has heavy tails. the distribution has heavy tails. Okay, now please listen to me carefully. Very, very, very important interpretation. When kurtosis is equal to 0, directly you can go with normal distribution. But if kurtosis is less than 0, what I mean, I'll just explain it to you. You said it has long tails, which means that the variability in data is a minimum. The variability in data is minimum. I think you agree to that fact because majority of the data is lying here. Please look at this and you please have to tell me what would be your interpretation here when you have heavy tails, please. What happens to the variability of data?
Variability will be maximum.
Very good, excellent. Variability in data is maximum when kurtosis is greater than 0. Okay, you have a question for me. I read it somewhere that if kurtosis value is lying between plus or minus 3, it is referred to as normal distribution. Anything less than that or anything greater than that, you will say that it is a skewed distribution. How is it relevant to this? Please remember, this is a very, very, very important point, because there are two ways in which you can check how the shape of the distribution is. Is it symmetric or asymmetric based on the kurtosis value and skewness value? What I mean by this is, if you have done or if you have knowledge of statistics, there are 3 different ways in which we could study a distribution. If you are studying the distribution plus or minus 1 standard deviation, please do not bother to understand this now. Tomorrow anyways, I'll explain it in detail. That means almost you are studying how much percentage of the distribution? It seems 68% of the distribution. I'm coming with a new pen. And this pen, when you hold it in your hand, it will measure your blood pressure. When you hold this pen in your hand, it will measure your blood pressure, and it could also be used for writing as well. Now, we want to launch this product into the market. Now, you want to know, whom do you want to target? Do you want to target only a small group of middle income? Yes, I only want to concentrate on 68% of the middle income group. Then what standard deviation would you consider? Can you please tell me? Plus or minus 1? Standard deviation. Right. Now, I want to increase the customer base. I want to increase the market size for my product. Means I want to at least sell my product to 95% of the customers. Then, how many standard deviations are we going to study? Plus or minus 2. Plus or minus 2. That means it studies 95% of the distribution, it seems. Now, sometimes you want to target the entire market, means I want to study 99%. I want to sell the product to 99% of the population. Then how much percentage are you going to study in the distribution? Plus or minus 3. Okay, let me quickly give you examples. I am talking about mask. Do I study plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, or plus or minus 3?
Plus or minus 3.
Wonderful. Plus or minus 3, because almost everyone have started using masks. Okay, now consumption of water. Consumption of pure water. Oh, sorry. I wrote plus or minus 1. Sorry. It is plus or minus 3, right? Yeah. Yeah, consumption of pure water, please.
It's 90. It's plus or minus 3.
Wonderful. Okay, now let me give you an example. Consumption of olive oil. Consumption of olive oil for cooking.
Plus or minus 1.
Very good.
Minus 1.
Consumption of paddy in Hyderabad. Consumption of paddy in Hyderabad.
Plus or minus 1.
Plus or minus 2 probably. The reason is majority of the people living in Hyderabad prefer paddy for their staple food, but we understand that there are many people who have migrated from other places and living in Hyderabad. So that 5% is given to them. Have I made sense till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's it for the day. So I have just given you an introduction about what is univariate analysis. In tomorrow's session, that is slated from 10 to 11:30 and 11:40 to 1:10, we will continue with the remaining univariate, bivariate, and multivariate techniques. What are they? Because we just discussed about techniques. We will discuss about the tools also tomorrow and how to interpret them as well. I hope I have made some sense. I have added some knowledge to whatever learning you had.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, please, boliye, sir.
Actually, in the case of water, I didn't get through that what you are trying to say, like clean water consumption by the people or government intervention to provide clean water to people.
No, government intervention, nahi, sir. Access, consumption of clean water by residents in Hyderabad.
Okay, in Hyderabad. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, only in Hyderabad. No?
Sir, कहीं पे भी सबको चाहिए होता है sir, clean water. No one would want to go for unclean water.
Actually, I thought the clean
it's
water
not
consumption.
Intervention. No, sir. Now it's not government's intervention.
Okay, thank you.
It will be
Hello,
then
ma'am.
plus or minus 1.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, please, Muskan ji.
Ma'am, why have you used 0.5 in skewness and 3 in this thing? Kurtosis, ma'am, it's little bit. Can you clear that?
Point. Yeah, just a second. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. No, what I was telling you is skewness has some measurement. The skewness measurement is, skewness is a different measure and kurtosis is a different measure. Skewness is a measure that is used in order to know whether is it positively skewed or negatively skewed. Whereas kurtosis only tells you whether is it a symmetric distribution or an asymmetric distribution. I hope I am making sense to you. Muskan?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So skewness has different values associated with its measure and kurtosis has a different set of values with its measure. Okay?
Ma'am, I have one question. This is Nagendra.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, can this be possible for the continuous time data, like say the prices of agriculture commodities? So can we plot this in particular time period, like say 1 year or 6 months, so that can we do these things for that also?
Which things?
I mean, all this kurtosis.
Absolutely, sir. See, exactly what we are, data of agriculture, data of manufacturing unit, data of marketing, anything as a matter of fact, either it be spatial data or time series data, any data as a matter of fact, if you want to have some preliminary understanding about the data set, you will perform descriptive analysis. Rather, tomorrow I would be discussing about it. Unless you have some basic understanding about the data, you cannot talk about correlation, you cannot talk about regression. If you have done so, it is incorrect. It is a big mistake in research because it is mandate that first of all you have to check what type of distribution are you working with. If you are working with a skewed distribution and you say I have applied regression, it itself says because the assumption says there should be normality, there should be linearity. I'll be talking about those things tomorrow. So
Yes, ma'am.
all
Yes.
those assumptions fail, so we will not be able to apply. So preliminary data has to be investigated for any data, as a matter of fact. Have I
Yes.
answered the question, Navindra?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Ma'am,
someone
thank you
else
so
also
much. It
wanted-
was very wonderful session, ma'am. The best SPSS teacher I have come through, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah. Are the organizers around?
Yeah.
Madam Shweta, are you there? Right.
Thank you, madam, for enlightening us on the statistics for data analysis. Even tomorrow morning, in the morning session, we will be having Dr. Shaheen madam's lecture on univariate, bivariate, and multivariate analysis and concepts of supervised and unsupervised learning techniques. So before we wind up for today, I would like to give a brief on the today's session. We started our day with an inaugural session in the morning at 9:30 with 100+ participants. The event is graced by Professor Yadagiri Garu and Professor Vedula Shekhar Garu. We had our first session on conceptual framework of research by Professor Vidyadhar Reddy Garu. With the time we got, sir has covered the importance of statistics and problem identification. Then we took part in the inaugural session of Atal Academy. In the post-lunch session, we are enlightened by the basics of statistics, scales of measurement, data organization. And now I request all the participants to provide the feedback in the chat box here in the Gmeet for today's sessions. I request the participants to join 10 minutes before the class tomorrow. The session tomorrow starts at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks a
ma'am.
lot. I take your leave now.
Yes.
Right. One more thing. Please, participants, do not. You can reach out to me anytime. I have left my email ID, so I don't have as such any YouTube channel. I've never thought of that. Maybe you are giving me a new source of source to look at. Sir, you don't have to thank me, sir. Thank you so much. I should thank you, Ramesh sir, for giving me this opportunity to interact with so many experts in this area. Thanks a lot. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.